All right. Hello, everyone. Today I'm so excited to bring to you an interview with Joe Hayden, who lives in Brisbane, Australia. Hi, Joe.
Hi,
And
Kate.
Joe, hi. Thank you for joining me. And you've been reading hands for a really long time, even though you most recently became certified and started some professional studies. But it sounds like with your experience, and I've been witness to your experience for quite a while, you have this natural ability, and that comes from this deep love that you have and just being open to hand reading. So how did you actually, where did you start your hand analysis training and when?
I got into hand reading back in 1991 because a gentleman read my hands and said that I had a woeful love life.
Oh,
And I was a bit disappointed about him telling me that. So I wanted to prove him wrong and started reading books on palmistry and hand reading, trying to see what he could see in my hands that I couldn't see. And as a result of doing that, I used to grab people's hands just to have a look at their lines. And I used to get really disappointed because I'd look at my hand and I'd look at theirs and I'd think, their heart line looks so much deeper than mine, or their headline looks so much better than mine. And I'd start telling them things about themselves, and they were going, yeah, that's me. And so for years and years, I used to use it as an icebreaker when I'd meet people if I was socialising, because I'm not very good at doing surface dwelling conversations. It doesn't seem to hold my attention very much. And I was lucky enough to see a advert in 2015 for hand analysis class with Jenna Griffiths. And I had no money at the time, but I asked the universe if they'd somehow support me, and I got a tax check, and it came in on the weekend that the course was running for exactly the same amount of money as what the course was. And so I jumped in and did the course, and I got really worried because I thought, oh my goodness, I've been telling people all these things about their hands, and what I learnt that weekend was so expansive. And Jenna said to me, no, you would have attracted those people that needed to hear the message at your level. And so from that point on, I just had this voracious passion to learn as much as I could about the hand analysis. And then luckily I heard about yourself, and I really linked with you and your philosophy. And thank goodness I got to do the course with you.
oh
And
my
the
God.
rest is history.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I feel so privileged to have had you in that program and privately for that
Yeah.
10 months. Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So good. So you were told something that you didn't really like. You're woeful in relationships, and that started you out. And then you started reading hands as icebreaker.
Yeah.
And so you're self-taught, and then you actually started training programs. So awesome.
Mm.
Um, so the rest is history. Was there a point in time, do you remember, that you decided to go professional? Because you were definitely a professional.
When I'd finished the course with Jenna that weekend, because I'd learnt so much, I really wanted to share it with people, and I really struggled with whether I could actually charge for the knowledge that I had. So I did a fair few free readings first, and the feedback that I got from the people was really favourable. So I said, well, okay, I do massage and I do Reiki. At the time I was in a little like a spa centre, and I thought, well, let's try the palmistry and we'll just see whether I get any clients. And I started to get clients, and then I sat out the front of a little shop in a little place called Fernvale. A girlfriend of mine had this beautiful little gift shop, and she said, let's try readings out the front on a Sunday morning. So I did that too, and I started to get clients there, and it slowly but surely over the years has expanded to, making this as a lifetime commitment.
Awesome. I love that. Just that, well, let's try this. Let's just try this. Let's try this. And it is all an experiment. And then you were very well received. So awesome. So if we were to fast forward about, like, how many hands do you read now, maybe in a month? And then we'll talk about, other things that you're doing with your life, but about how many in a month?
At the moment, I'm probably averaging about 25 a month, which I'm wrapped with. I'm really happy with that. And I've just launched into doing Zoom sessions. I just did a lady in Washington 2 weeks ago, and then another lady in England last week with Zoom, and then a lady in Sydney on Friday. So that's starting to expand. And yeah, I've set up a website just in the last month or so. And yeah, I haven't advertised it. I'm just doing it organically. And at the moment, I'm actually just getting people sending emails. It seems to be all word of mouth at the moment, which is just a blessing.
Yeah, that is totally ideal. So you've been reading hands all these years, your web there in the last month.
Pardon? I missed
Yeah.
that. Sorry,
Oh,
Kate.
so you've been reading hands all these years, referrals, and then you've just now recently put your website together in the last month. And I like it. It's really good. It's very simple. And I love that you're available around the world, Good. So you do mini readings and full, like how long is your long reading?
My long readings normally go for, on average, an hour and a half. Some scenarios, it'll be an hour. If I'm working in a shop and I've got hour bookings where I take the handprints before I do the reading. So they get about probably 45 minutes of content, and it's all recorded. But if it's face-to-face, I find I've got so much information I want to give them that it's very rare that they leave within an hour and a half. Because it's just that in your home kind of one-on-one contact. Yeah, and I get taken in by the hand. I get drawn into the story of the hand, and it's just fascinating work.
Oh yeah, totally. Well, how do you educate people, or how do you tell people what it is you do? Can you give us an idea of like what the words are that you say to invite people and give them an idea what this is about and what they're going to get?
So I always say that I do hand analysis, and that the most amazing thing about it, or I call my business Hand Intelligence, and I used to be a criminal intelligence analyst, and where I study criminals, but now I study fingerprints, and the fingerprints tell me about your soul's purpose. And the beauty of that is that your highest ranking fingerprint combination can tell me about what you actually come here to do, what your gifts are to share. And then the lowest ranking combination fingerprints tell me what your biggest challenge is. And amazingly to me, some people don't want to know that. Some people actually don't want to know. They're like, no, I don't want to know, because then I'm going to have to take responsibility for what my life's purpose is. Whereas I was so rapt to find out what my purpose was at 52, finally what I came here to do, that was like, great, now I can stop wasting my time on the things that, you know, I used to amuse myself with. So it's about a direction course. That's how I look at it. And maybe my enthusiasm picks, you know, that enhances that. I don't know, I'm not sure, but usually when I talk about it, people go, that sounds really fascinating. And I go, it is.
Yes. Yeah, that is so important for us, all you hand readers who are listening to this, is that we really dig into our enthusiasm and our passion. And I know that comes so naturally to you, and that is what has increased your number of readings that you're doing.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yep. So let's see, you also do group readings. How does that go for you? How do you do your group readings? That's
interesting. Group readings really, I find that really challenging, but it's because everyone in the audience can usually relate to the different schools. So School of Love, School of Wisdom, School of Peace, School of Service. And I give a little mini synopsis of the schools first, and I say, and that's how we've got to try and identify what school you're in. And the really interesting one always makes me laugh is the people that are in the School of Love that hide out in the School of Service.
Oh,
that's really, really funny, because there's a lot of people that do that. And just recently on the weekend, I met somebody who does it, and they're like, well, maybe I do. Because and I understand it, because I've got quite a number of loops. So there's a bit of love in my world as well. So, but I am School of Service. So it's, people will go, oh, I think I'm definitely School of Service. And then you look at their handprints and they're School of Love. And you're like, oh, no, you're all about emotions and expressing who you really are and not hiding yourself. And I always see that penny drop or the light bulb go on with people where they go, oh, okay, that is me. So in a big group, and you'll find some people hear it and they'll go, yeah, I'm not ready to hear this information yet. And so you don't get a reading from them, but later on down the track, it might be 12 months later, they'll say, I saw you on a cruise, or I saw you on a seminar that you were doing. And at the time I didn't want to know about it, but now I do.
Wow, that's remarkable. Yeah.
Mm.
And so then you wouldn't get attached or have your feelings hurt if anybody decided not to do it right now. You just know that people come up and show up in their own right time. Yeah.
And I get some people that come to fairs and I've actually had a couple of people that when they've sat down, I've had to say to them, this isn't a psychic reading. This is a reading that is all based on scientific evidence. Everything I'm about to give you is just information that has been collated over many, many, many years of research in identifying, what your soul's come here to do. And I've had two ladies go, oh, I wanted a psychic reading, and they've got up and walked away. I have no problem with them doing that because I don't want my clients to be disappointed. I'd hate to, do the whole reading. I have one lady that actually said that's not what I wanted. She didn't, what I gave her just wasn't what she wanted. She wanted to, know a personal question, an answer to a personal question, which the hand analysis couldn't answer. But I love the way it really connects deeply to the person and to what their souls actually come here to do. I see this as such important work.
Oh, yeah. My vision is that everybody has a hand reader, a hand analyst, and that they don't only come once, but many times, because you know how many times we're at crossroads in life and need some direction and clarity and for our unique self. And like you said, it is non-predictive. That's what I like to say too. We do non-predictive scientific hand analysis.
Yeah.
And it's also wonderful too that you draw on your scientific background and your experience at being, studying criminals. I think is that what you said, studying criminals.
Yeah.
And so you didn't study forensics though, then did you? Or did you do fingerprints before then? Or was your fingerprinting education came when you started reading hands or going to class?
Yeah, so I didn't take handprints before that. My intelligence background was to do with law enforcement. So it was looking at criminal groups and then doing intelligence work. So intelligence goes out to try and disprove that somebody's involved in illegal activity as against police who collect evidence to prove that somebody's involved in criminal activity. It's a bit back to front. But it's all about collating a large amount of information and then compiling it all together and then synopsing what the actual scenario is, which is kind of what we do in hand analysis. We take a lot of information and then we get the key points and then we come up with the picture of what the soul's here to do. So to me, it was just a natural form. And this is much more positive viewing of an aspect of life, whereas looking at criminals was the negative. This is looking at the positive aspects about what people can achieve in their own lifetimes.
Wow, wonderful. Fascinating too. So good. So back to the groups then. Do you have somebody who hosts you when you do the groups and then you just go to their house and do a reading? Or do you do, like you mentioned, the cruise ships? I know you've done readings on cruise ships, but where do you do the groups?
So groups, if I do a group and it's at houses, then it'll be like one-on-one readings, because the thing about it is you can't go really, really deep, and there are certain markers on the hands that identify really personal things and things that you really need to just discuss one-on-one with people, because it's really building up a trust and you're going quite deep with people. the group thing, if I went on the cruise ships, was just the general, like some of the funny things about us in our hands. Like I always love asking a room to put their hands up and trying to identify the ones that have got the big gap here in the in this area of the hand. Yeah, when they're really out there. And I always laugh and say, you know, like, wow, you folk really hate being told what to do, don't you? And you always get a reaction from the audience, you know, like they're like, oh, and if the partners are with them, they're like, oh yeah, that's true, you know. So it's a general, I talk about the general lines and just general information and the quirky things about our hands to try and engage people to understand. And then I actually get them to look at the people next to them and say, have a look at the person next to you and have a look at the lines on their hands, and then look at your own hands. And you can let them go for 5 minutes and they'll be looking at the different lines and, oh, what's this line mean? And it means that I end up running around a room going from one person to the next, which is really exciting. But it's just, I just love the engagement of getting people to understand that these hands are like a map of our life and our energy force, and they're not just wrinkles and creases. There's a story involved in it. Yeah, so it's challenging, but it's also really exciting too.
Oh yeah. Good. So I'm hearing two different ways, like, and I've done that before too. You have, instead of doing the party or the group all at one, you know, everybody can hear everything and they get shorter periods of time, is that you take individuals into a private room. So,
Yes.
and I think you've done like 7 in a day, 7
Yes.
1-hour sessions in a day. And I've done that before. I remember driving to Los Angeles, which was a 3-hour drive, and doing all those readings in a day. And it's so rewarding. And then each person goes out and tells the other person a little bit about what they heard. And in the case where I was, the host made food for everybody. So that was nice. And then the other one that is fun. That's a great engaging way. Having everybody hold up their hands. I've heard people say, wow, I didn't realize there could be so many differences in people's hands, or thumbs, or how their fingers are spread or close together, or people notice scars or short lines, long lines. So good. That's awesome. And I can hear you
Missing fingers.
What's that?
Missing fingers.
Missing fingers. Yeah. What do you say about missing fingers?
Depending on the finger. So it depends if it's, you know, like I've got a girlfriend whose mother's lost her Jupiter finger and it's on her left hand. So there's no power in the relationship. And at the time that she had the accident, there was actually no power in the relationship. And that relationship's actually dissolved now. But she was powerless for a number of years in that relationship. And it's almost like the universe is saying, well, I'm going to give you a reminder of how little power you really have. There goes the finger. Yeah, quite incredible, the stories that people actually have of their hands, and I don't always see it when I first meet them. Until we do the handprint, and I'll go, 1, 2, 3. Hang on, there's a finger missing here. I just get so excited about being able to see just even the finger placements and the gaps between. There's this story building in my head already about what this person is, and what motivates them, and what makes them tick. And I think it's really great to be able to give people confirmation about who and what they are, because sometimes we don't always see ourselves as clearly as other people see us.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. Let's see. Okay. So about how much do you charge for reading a 90-minute, 60 to 90-minute reading, and then for is it a different price when you do the events or the parties?
Yeah. So if I do an event or a party, it's still so I charge $111 for a 1-hour reading. If you come to my house, it's the same price, $111. If I do a 25-minute reading for someone at a fair, then that's $40 at the moment. but I'm looking at reviewing that if we go back into doing fairs again. And at the moment with sending sheets away, I send a hand kit away and to people that are overseas. That one's $147 because covering the postage and plus the hand kit itself. And then I supply a Zoom copy of what they, of the actual reading to them as well. So maximum's 147 and minimum's $40, but that's 25 minutes. And they don't get a hand print when I do the little mini readings.
Right. Good. Okay. So how did you, because over time you went from free to fee and then now 111 and then 147. How do you go about increasing your fees?
Well, it comes down, I suppose, to self-worth. And I really struggled with actually putting a value on what I was doing for people and whether I was actually worthy of it. But I've realized how much benefit I receive from getting my readings from yourself, and also another hand analyst here in Australia, Ruth, in Melbourne, Ruth Gale. And it was just, I do have a lot of knowledge, and one of the big confirmations for that was to actually do a reading, or I did a reading class where I did a level 1 in hand analysis. And at the end of the day, I was a bit gobsmacked at the amount of information that I actually knew. And it wasn't until people were saying to me, how did you learn all of this? And I'm like, learn all of what? I just didn't realize how much knowledge and how much information I actually had. So that was really good in confirming to me that it was okay for me to put my price up, because originally I was on $80 for quite a long time. And then the reason I jumped to 111 was I really liked the angel number 111. And I'm kind of looking at maybe putting it up again, but I'm just not sure with the situation of what's happening worldwide. I really want this to be affordable for as many people as possible, because I know how much benefit it gives. So yeah, I'll try and keep it at an affordable rate for everyone.
Wonderful, wonderful. I just love hearing that it does come down to our self-worth. And I love to remind students, and I'm sure you've heard me say this before, and I'll just say it again too for those listening, is it's always good to ask at the end of the reading or during the reading, what's been most helpful so far? How has this been beneficial to you? And to get them to get real tangible, to get real specific about how they're benefiting, because number one, it helps give us feedback about how important it is to them. And number two, it helps them reinforce what they're really getting out of it. And then to remind them again, whether it's a follow-up email or at the end, is I'm really glad that you benefited by, like me one time, I had a Simeon owner, and after 90 minutes, I said, what was most helpful? And she said that I'm a communications master and how I need to go about doing that, and that it's not my job, or it's my job to make sure other people understand me. It's not their job to understand me. And so, or not their job, to understand me. It's my job to help them understand me. And I would have never known that was the biggest takeaway for her. And then it gives them words to tell other people about how they benefited. And for me to tell people, well, this is how they benefit, how people have told me they benefited. So that's awesome. Awesome, Joe. So we were just talking before you came on, and for those hand readers who are listening, do you mind if I share your fingerprint chart?
Sure. Okay.
So your right thumb is a composite whorl. And then Jupiter is a loop, and a loop on Saturn, the middle finger, and then on Apollo, a whorl, and on Mercury, right Mercury, all these are right hand, a whorl. And then on the left hand, we have a loop, 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 and a composite, a little tiny composite whorl on left Mercury.
Cool, love that one. What a doozy to learn about that one.
Yeah, how so? What goes on with your composite whorl on left Mercury?
Snake oil. Holy dooly. When I heard that, it was like, oh, you mean I'm a fraud? Holy. And because one of my past life careers was a real estate agent, I was like, oh, I'm not sitting with this one very well, but I realized that what it was is that I have the ability to, I've worked in a lot of different fields throughout my life. And so real estate, law enforcement, aged care, childcare, lots of administration positions. And I'm able to adapt to whatever my environment is. But what I realized was I don't have the enthusiasm that I do for those jobs like I do for this job. And so snake oil to me is like we talk the talk to get, you know, to be able to achieve sustenance and to be able to achieve a wage and a job, but it's not necessarily what our soul really loves to do. And so the difference to me was about becoming more authentic, and snake oil, the opposite side, is the healer. And for me, my healing is how I help people with their life choices and with their, you know, their information about what their soul tells them. And I realise that when I'm doing this work, I get inspiration, I get information that comes from a higher realm that helps on their hand reading. And it's like, where did that come from? Where did that knowledge come from? So when you're doing something that you absolutely love and that you're really attuned to, you become the healer. When you're not, you're doing the snake oil, which is just talking the talk. You're not really walking the walk. That's how I sit with it.
Good. So snake oil, yeah, the perception of being like a snake oil salesman. So good. That's
Yeah.
a great analogy. It's very rare to have a composite world there, but look at you. You asked for it. You got it.
And I've met a couple of people that I've only probably over 2,000 readings now, and I've met probably 4 people that have snake oil, and each one I'm really, when I see it, I go, oh, hello, hello, friend, you're one of me. So I'm able to really broach the subject with them in a completely understanding way and they get it. Like they just go, yeah, I feel like I'm not in my truth. I feel like I'm not really doing what I've come here to do. It's more of like a course correction fingerprint, really.
Great. Oh, course correction. I love that. That's great. Yes. So then your life lesson is emotional mastery.
Yep.
Be vulnerable and take risk to go deep within your feeling system, feel your feelings and express your feelings so that you can come into your most authentic self. So how has that benefited you? How has that worked for you, and how have you benefited in having that lesson?
It hasn't been easy. I don't think any of the soul choices that we've made has been easy. I think all of us are courageous to come down and do this work. On a soul level for love, it's been hard because I'm pretty good at masking my emotions when something, you know, upsets me or somebody says something that's a bit nasty, and I'm really sensitive. So I'm really having to take responsibility for my soul. And when somebody does say something that hurts me, I make myself speak up. I may not be able to speak up right there and then, because sometimes it can come at me from left field and I'm like, wow, that hurt inside. And then I'll walk away and go, I'm not going to let that slide. I want to ask them. And a lot of the times I find out that they actually didn't mean it as harshly as how I've taken it. So I'm learning to, by asking more questions about people and their motivations, I'm learning more about me and getting feedback. And that, I remember that was one thing you used to say to me through the course was, Jo, you need to ask for that feedback and to make sure that you do understand, because I have a pretty strong imagination and I can come up with scenarios of, oh, they meant this. So it's a real lesson in being authentic with yourself.
Yes, I think you have the short mercuries, little short mercury too, and
Yes.
that's a call for getting feedback. And so good. So you're using that you had a feeling, you had a feeling was hurt.
Mm,
So in the school on you're on the path of service, first of all, but your lesson is love. And so you use that feeling, oh, there's a feeling. So now you can't hide from it. You're not going to work for it. Like you said earlier, people will service instead of feel their feelings. So you're using that feeling as a trigger to say, oh,
yes.
let me find out more, to be curious. That's brilliant.
Mm,
That's brilliant. And then to allow yourself to feel. And I know you've told me that you've given yourself time and space to feel, to just
mm,
be in the feeling zone. That's awesome. Good.
mm,
Yep. Yep.
mm.
It is. And like you said earlier, it's courageous. We've chosen these lessons and been very courageous and brave in doing so.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, what's been, oh, and so your purpose is, how would you say it? I say, you could say speaker in the spotlight, you could bring in the healership, in the public's eye, creative with your words, creative with your insights.
Yeah, and public speaking's kind of, I did a public, well, I had to do a room where I was put on the spot where they said, okay, we want you to speak 5 minutes about your life as a mouse. And it was in a room full of law enforcement agents, I suppose you could call them. And I was bad. I really floundered and I could feel myself going red from my toes right up to the top of my head. And the looks on their faces was just sheer horror at how bad I was at trying to imagine what life would be like as a mouse. And so I did public speaking, and I found that I spoke about palmistry, and that was before I was doing readings as a pastime or part time. And they had to ring the bell on me at Toastmasters because I wouldn't shut up. I had all this information, and I was like, how does this work? How do you feel really confident? And the two things I learned about it was, one, you never speak about anything you don't know about. And two, if you get nervous when you get up to speak, it's because you care about how the audience takes the information. So I remind myself whenever I get nervous to talk about what I'm doing is that's good. That's a good thing because I'm caring about how my audience interacts with me and that they're enjoying the information. So
Mm.
it's not my intention to go out and be well known. It's my intention to go out and share this information and to help as many people as possible because I know how much it helped me. If it becomes a byproduct of it, okay,
Mm-hmm.
then obviously I'll put that on my path as well. I'm not sure, but it's not my intention. It's not how I'm going with it. It's just the love of this.
Yeah, the love of this. And that's what I think about Right Apollo is it's, yeah, approval, appreciation, and applause. It's having a spotlight. It's being in the limelight. But I think even more deeply, it's about allowing your core expression to come
Yeah.
forward, to allow your source and your light to come out and shine. And you're doing that with your voice. And Mercury is about insights and bringing forward the insights and inspiration, and to help people do that for themselves when they don't know how to. So the cheerleader also.
Yeah, and I love doing that. I love the underdog and giving them insights. And that's the funny thing. Sometimes things just pop into my head and it's like, oh, okay. You do, you're opening yourself up to having that higher inspiration.
What's been most challenging for you in business as a professional hand analyst?
Believing in myself and um, allowing the success to come in. That's probably been the biggest challenge. I find I police what I do. I police what I do and how far I go. It's almost like I try and hold myself back, and I find people chasing me, wanting me to go to a shop or to work somewhere, and I'm like, oh, can I do that? Can I really? But once I commit and say yes, it just flows. And so I have to really like kick myself sometimes and say, Joe, don't fight it. Just you know, this is the universe working with you, giving you an opportunity. That's my biggest struggle.
Ah, good. So saying yes to the request, saying yes to the universe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And once I've met the people and I know them, and you know, I've worked for them, I'm there straight away, not a problem. But it's when that something comes from me, from who I don't know, it comes in, it's almost like I go, oh, am I going to be enough? Yeah. And that sort of ties in with, you know, am I good enough? There's still layers within myself that I recognize, and I suppose because I'm still working on my challenges, I really, really have compassion when I see similar lessons in others' hands that I've got. And then it's about having courage for both of us, you know, courage for me of my lesson, and then the person sitting opposite me has a similar lesson, and saying, we can do this, you know, we can do this. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I remember Vernon Mahable told me one time, whenever somebody asks you to do something, he's saying that is God, or that is the universe asking for your service. And of course, we're both on the path of service, so we have to make sure we're in pure joy of service. But I really took that to heart. And so good on you, right? Is to look at, you know, am I good enough? Is absolutely. And I was just listening today, a coach who I listened to said, keep your goals in front of you. And anytime a fear comes up, because everybody has it, or self-worth issues, that if we just keep forwarding with the goal, keep going with the goal, and your passion and your love of doing this and bringing it forward to people, then it helps to give us that little boost up over any self-worth issues or fear issues. So good job.
Yep. Totally.
So, you know, I know as a hand reader, I've had a lot of low times in my life, not a lot, but a few where there's plateaus, or referrals don't come in, or clients aren't calling, and or just in our own lives. I know you've had some things, down times in your life, and so have I. What sort of system do you have to lean on during your low times?
Faith. Faith that everything happens for a reason. Faith that for whatever the problem that's come through, whether it's a health issue, whether it's you know, change in circumstances financially, whether friends have dropped away, you know, it's all about everything happens for a higher purpose. And even though I might not understand it at the time, with hindsight, everything has got a purpose. Everything does have a reason. You know, my recent health issue this year for me was, really? I don't want to do cancer. But it came and went so fast, and I'm so blessed and lucky, but I got a reset as well. So I actually had to take like 6 weeks off doing nothing completely. And I did, literally, I didn't do a reading. I didn't entertain anything outside of just healing my body. And it was like having a holiday. And people in service, we tend to always overgive, give. So it was a recharge for me. And that was a blessing. The fact that it took cancer for me to take a break should have been a hello. So everything, I've got a real faith that everything happens to us for a reason, and that it's always for our best and highest good.
Fantastic. That's an awesome attitude. Awesome. So do you have any other sources of income? Besides your hand reading, you have another job? But how often do you work there? Yeah.
No, I actually lost my job after my health scare. And COVID, good old COVID-19, stepped in, and I was retrenched from my work. And instead of going into panic, which I would have, I had actually have access to my super, thankfully, and that's kind of been my support system at the moment. And then I've just had friends asking me to come and work at their shop, and off the internet I've been contacted via emails and that's what it's almost like, because I've committed to this permanently now as my career, the universe has said, okay, so you're going to do that, Joe? Right. Well, we're going to send you some more readings. And my husband keeps saying to me, you need to advertise. And I'm like, yeah, well, I'll get on to that. And I go, I've just got 2 readings. Somebody's texted me. And so I've made the commitment to step in, and the universe has gone, okay, you want to work? We're going to give you some work. And that's how it's developed. This has been quite, I'm grateful, so grateful.
Oh, that's awesome. Yes, you've said yes to the universe, you've committed, and you can see it, you can visualize it,
Mm-hmm.
and people are showing up. That is fantastic. Yeah. So let's see, anything else related to anything that we've talked about so far? Anything else come up for you?
The biggest thing, so I've done a few classes where I've taught level 1, and the biggest thing I've got with people learning about it, and they'll say, how do I get to know this knowledge? You can read as many books as you like, and like you can go through 20, 30, 40 books, but if you don't pick up someone's hand and look at their hands and then apply the knowledge that you've learnt, you're not going to hold anything inside. That's the biggest thing I learnt, was by looking at people's hands, I'd sometimes see lines and go, oh, I don't think I've seen that in a book. And so then it'll be like, I'll come back to you and I'll go home and I'll do some research, and then I'll go, oh, so that line means blah, blah, blah. And I'll go, oh, well, what's this line mean? And that's how I ended up reinforcing all of the stuff that I learnt, was by just applying what I knew in the book and then trying to find it on somebody's hand. It was quite amazing. So that's the best piece of information that I've learnt myself, is you've got to look at the people's hands.
Oh, good. Yeah. And that's what I was going to ask you too, is the top 3 tips that you would give for budding hand analysts, or even hand analysts who have been in business for a while. And that's your number 1, is right, looking at hands. Let the hands teach you.
My problem is watching a movie and not wanting to put the movie on hold because I've seen somebody's hand and gone, wow, look at that. My husband just rolls his eyes like, what are you doing? And I've got the phone taking a picture of the handprint or the hand, trying to work them out. Like, I get really excited about it. I think here's the thing. If you get excited about something, that's like your soul saying, this is where you're meant to be. This is what you're supposed to be doing. You know, with my other jobs that I used to do, it was like, yeah, I do, real estate, or yeah, I do childcare, I do aged care. But that wasn't a passion for me. Whereas hands are a passion. It's like people who do astrology, they like talking gobbledygook to me. I know I have a general knowledge of it, but they've got a passion for it. So it's just, to me, it's trying to help people find that passion in their life.
Good. Let's see, you had a couple other tips too you wanted to share with people. One, I think, never stop learning.
Yes. Find your passions.
Yep. So never stop looking at hands. Find your passion. Never stop learning.
And if it's in your soul to look at hands, if it's in your soul, if there's something that you look at, read, hear about, and you get like a wake up, like the eyes switch on or the brain switches on, that's where you're meant to be going. That's what you're meant to be following. And whereas if we do it because it sounds cool, or we do it because that might be an interesting thing to do, you can feel it in your energy, whether that's authentic to you. I remember hearing a fellow stand up once to talk about in Toastmasters about car engines. And I thought, oh God, this is going to be a boring 3 minutes. I'm not going to get this 3 minutes back. But he stood there and had so much passion about what he was talking about, and was so excited about how the carburetor worked. And I was enthralled because he was just so animated about it. And I thought, holy dooly, there's a big lesson there in, you know, how many times do we hear people go to talk about something and it's like, you just want to go to sleep, and you're trying not to because they've not really, they're not convinced themselves about what they're doing. So if you get a fire in your belly to learn about this sort of stuff, I've had people that have come to me and said it, and they like might get clairvoyancy or they might get healing or whatever, but I might say to them, look, maybe hands interest you. Maybe, you know, you should go in and look at doing palmistry. I'm all there for everybody to find what their niche is, and never think that there's too many of us in the universe, because there's not. There's not a lot of hand analysts. I'm only aware of a few in Australia, and really worldwide, we're a very small community, and so there's billions of people on this planet. The more that we can help each other, I suppose, feel at ease with ourselves, that's a gift. That's an absolute gift. I had a clairvoyant say to me that I'd found my Dharma. I know about karma, but to find your Dharma was like what you've come here to actually do and share with this planet. And I agree with him. I think I have found my Dharma. It sits in my soul that this is what I'm meant to be doing. So I hope that my readings help people understand themselves better. And every time a client walks out the door and says, thank you, you've given me so much to think about, and I've seen their energy change. That's the big thing, where they come through the door and they, you know, they might be a bit just reserved, a bit quiet, but when they leave, they're like, oh, I can't wait to do this. I can't wait to find out. I've got to re-listen to this because you gave me so much information. And I'm like, yeah. And I hope and I always say, if you've got any questions later on, just give me a bell. That's okay. Just give me a call. But don't come back. I'm very careful not to let them become reliant on me as having all of the answers. That's a big thing. I give you all of your information. Now you need to go walk away and just sit with this information about yourself and assimilate that and then develop it.
Very good. Good boundaries. Very good.
We're not here to hold the path.
Oh, well, this is wonderful. I would encourage anybody who's listening, if you have a question, you can contact me at packard.k@gmail.com or joe@joehayden.com.
It's joehayden62 at outlook.com, okay. Or Hand Intelligence, Joe Hayden Hand Intelligence.
Good, and your website is handintelligence.com.au. Okay, wonderful. Oh, thank you so much for joining me again, Joe, and everybody. And I hope everybody gets a lot of good nuggets from your amazing experience. And I know that so many of your clients are just so lucky to have you. And now more than ever, I think in the times that we're in, it's 2020, by the way, people want direction. They want so many people are in uncertainty and not knowing. And so what we can bring them is self-reliance and look back. What is your calling? What are you here to do? And to use your heartline type to love yourself in that particular way. Just it goes on and on and on. So, yay, thank you. And then I
want to say thank you for coming into my life and making me the reader that I am. If it wasn't for you, Kay, I wouldn't have as strong a passion and as strong a knowledge of this information. So you've been a blessing to me. Thank you. And I highly recommend you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Kay.